Dead Space. Top 14 most grotesque and nightmare-inducing necromorphs. What happens when an alien infection starts reanimating all life forms and even corpses? Well, we get the Necromorphs. As the name suggests, they are morphed and transformed dead bodies and the prime villains of the Dead Space games. Created by Visceral Games and published by Electronic Arts, these beasts come in all sizes, ranging from barely humanoid creatures to elephantine monsters. They can either infest dead bodies or kill living beings to spawn new necromorphs. Presumably, the scariest of them all remains the Hive Mind, but others like the Leviathan and Tentacles can give even great cinematic monsters like the Xenomorphs and Yautjas a run for their money. Then there are the immensely huge Brethren moons that can scale the size of the moon. These creatures are extremely hostile and attack anything that moves, or rather anything that breathes.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Brute. Brute is one of the more hardy necromorphs and remains encased within an exoskeleton made up of bone and calcified skin. Furthermore, this exoskeleton is spiky and extremely durable. However, its posterior is relatively less armored and hence less durable. If one of its arms is slashed, another erupts out of the posterior. In its chest, the brute manufactures extremely explosive material. If its limbs are severed or heavily damaged, it starts bursting out projectiles. Interestingly enough, the brute is extremely fast and agile for its size and heavy armor. It can leap through rooftops with relative ease. Due to this, the brute can surprise its victim, using stealth and speed. They usually land on their victims to crush them, after which they attempt to smash them using their paws. In Dead Space 2, they were known to carve out tunnels through solid materials. However, its most potent attacks remain punches and headbutts that they can easily knock their victim off their feet. Their weak points are the shoulder joints and the hind legs. When heavily confronted, it crawls inside the hard exoskeleton and armored plates, but it's still in a vulnerable spot because its back is exposed. The brute becomes immobile when its legs are severed, but also starts lobbing its organic bombs. The Hive Mind. It was initially believed that the Hive Mind was a sentient necromorph in the command center of all the others. However, it turned out to be a regular drone. Real controllers of the necromorphs are the Brethren moons, like the Tau Volantis moon. The Hive Mind looks like a massive worm with numerous tentacles jutting out from its body. Like other bigger necromorphs, the Hive Mind was also made up of several bodies, possibly hundreds of them. It has a visibly fleshy look, especially its lower thorax, and almost resembles human skin. It has a huge circular mouth with 2 prominent sets of jaws and 2 sets of teeth. It can spit acidic pods from the mouth, while its set of 5 eyes are made up of a yellow explosive material. Its immensely long and powerful tentacles are potent weapons for dealing damage and manipulating its victims. The sizes of these tentacles vary in length. While some can be up to tens of meters, the others are smaller and are used for grabbing nearby objects and so on. It has several sacs along its body and can also spit out pregnants from them. Hive Mind is a magnificently deadly creature of the Dead Space universe, and the players should take extra precaution when dealing with it. Leapers. Leapers are made out of a single human corpse, but the extreme mutation of the corpse give the leapers high increased mobility and speed. The muscles on the upper side of the arms become modified, while the fingers grow sharp claws for severing the prey or climbing and crawling. Hands dislocate, and the thumbs move backward to give it animalistic paws. Vertebral ridges get elongated, and their spinal cord becomes more flexible. These features help in locomotion. Other modifications include flaying and fusion of bones and muscles into a single limb that ends in a razor-sharp blade and has exaggerated durability and weight. These creatures use their extremely flexible and powerful tails to launch towards their prey. The tails can also be used to sting or stab their enemies by curling up, much like a scorpion. Instead of teeth, the leapers possess sharp and bony fangs. Furthermore, they have a pair of mandibles that end in bladed fangs. One may kill a leaper by cutting off its arm and then shooting the head. Simply cutting an arm will take away its ability to run, but it can still leap towards the prey. Cutting the tail helps too because it stops the leaper from jumping or launching itself. Happy chopping! The Pregnant. Like leapers, the Pregnants are also formed from a single human corpse, but these have even more pronounced levels of mutations. Their two massive arms protrude from their back and end in substantially large bony scythes that the Pregnants use to slash the victim. The lower jaw detaches to show numerous hanging tentacles from the place. The Pregnants have a giant sac that have the human arms of the host fused with itself. When they are fatally injured to the extent that they die upon facing little more damage, the Pregnant claws open their sacs to release smaller Necromorphs onto the victim to ensure that the victim dies. Their sacs usually carry smaller creatures like swarmers, but in certain instances, they are known to carry much deadlier necromorphs, such as lurkers or strange and unique creatures made out of several fused body parts. This trait is also seen in the case of dividers. Due to their greater weight and short legs, their speed is relatively lesser than other necromorphs, but Pregnants can do some real damage if they get a hold of their victims. The best option to kill these giants is to shoot the shoulders, as it doesn't involve bursting the sac. However, slashing off the two blades pretty much does the trick. Guardians. The Guardians are immobile but deadly necromorphs that are fixed on walls with their flesh fused. They are essentially created by the mutation of dead humans, and the transformation that takes place in multiple stages. The host human's intestines take the form of razor-sharp and scythe-tipped appendages, with which the Guardians attack and kill almost anything that comes within their striking range. As they have no visibly repurposed limbs, their locomotion is practically nil, but they still hunt for their prey. However, as the name suggests, their primary role is to serve as guardians to the areas that are crucial for necromorph infestation. To kill a Guardian, its tentacles must be severed. As mentioned earlier, these tentacles are formed from the intestine of the host and sprout from their chest cavities. It's important to wait for the Guardian to notice the player before they begin shooting at it, because shooting a Guardian that's unaware of your presence will lead to wastage of bullets. Although considered largely incapable because of their immobility, one should use only long-range or medium-range weapons like explosive canisters, etc., instead of short-range weapons. If it's a premature Guardian, then a shot to the head should do the trick. Happy guarding! The Hunter. The beast first appeared in Chapter 5, Lethal Devotion. The Hunter was an artificially manufactured regenerator-type necromorph created by Dr. Chalice Mercer on the vessel USG Ishimura. He inserted a necromorph tissue into the skull of an unknown Ishimura crew member. The resultant entity resembled a slasher with huge blades placed at the end of its elongated arms. However, it was essentially larger and bulkier than slashers. Unlike other usual necromorphs, the Hunter has extensive regenerative capabilities and can restore several limbs within a short span of time. Therefore, the usual severing and dismembering tactics temporarily incapacitate it, don't do any significant damage. Like other enhanced and regenerating necromorphs, its eyes glow. Host's jaws has visibly disappeared in the Hunter, and now 4 tentacles hang in its place. Its big toes have razor-sharp claws, while the entire body is bereft of skin and is wrapped with muscular tissues. Numerous bones protrude from several parts of its body, giving it an utterly grotesque look. The Hunter attacks by closing in on the victim, and then slashing them using its long and sharp blades. Lurkers. The lurkers lack muscle mass and muscle coordination required to make an efficient kill, and serve more as biomass. But the pathogen recombines this biomass into an extremely violent and offensive being. These extensively mutated beasts sport several adaptations that help them in low gravity and ranged combat. They possess numerous sticky tentacles around their lower abdomen and thoracic cavity. It moves with the help of these tentacles, even on walls and ceilings with steady speed. Their pelvic area has 3 elongated tentacles that unfurl when the creature spots a potential victim. Tentacles are also capable of long-ranged attacks, shooting barbs with impeccable accuracy and high speed. The best way to deal with a lurker is to be on the move constantly. Unlike most other necromorphs, the lurkers cannot really harm the players who are running or moving away. Once you're far enough, their barbs get weaker and become avoidable. But beware if your health is low. Due to their smaller size, they sometimes become hard to notice and can camouflage easily. Again, it's best to use long-ranged weapons against these hideous monsters. Happy lurking! Twitchers. When people like soldiers, special division scientists, etc., whose stasis modules get infected with necromorphs, the resultant creature is called a twitcher. Twitchers look similar to slashers, but have a few prominent differences. Because the stasis module gets fused with the host during the mutation, the twitchers become very agile and speedy, with exceptional reaction time and movement. Hitting them from a distance is an extremely difficult task, and only skilled players can achieve the feat. However, attacking them becomes relatively easier when they close in on their victim. Their constant twitching and spasmodic behavior are the reason why they are called twitchers. Twitchers are humanoid and resemble slashers, but are more muscular than the latter. This might be attributed to their well-built hosts, like the armed personnel. Some twitchers lack chest appendages, but do possess huge talons. Their heads are known to house large, hollow indentations, which are filled with minuscule but numerous tentacles. Killing them by dismemberment is particularly difficult because their massive blades protect them. Slashers. The slasher is one of the more common necromorphs of the Dead Space games. Created from a single corpse, like few other necromorphs, the slasher is named so because of its sharp talons projecting out of its arms. These blades and talons not only serve as their main weapon, but also give it support and stability. When the blades are used with the brute strength of the slasher, the attack is severe enough to dismember most of its victims. In the game Dead Space 3, the mummified slashers also possess abdominal limbs. They have arms on their lower torso too. Even if the lower limbs are lost, the slashers manage to continue their attacks because of their extra arms and claws. Slashers produce a variety of sounds depending on the situation that they are in, and specific sounds signal specific actions. A slasher will make gurgling and choking noises if it hasn't found its prey, or when it is sneaking up on an unwitting victim. Once the prey is spotted, the slashers let out roars and bellows. While charging towards their prey, slashers emit angry howls and rhythmic yells. So, if you're acquainted with these different noises, you would know what to expect from a slasher. Leviathan. The Leviathan was a massive necromorph that collided with USG Ishimura while it was drifting aimlessly through space. It entered the vessel through the hydroponics deck and then safeguarded itself within the food storage facility. Leviathan owns a huge gaping mouth that is surrounded by 3 orifices, from which come out long and powerful tentacles. It uses these tentacles to bash and sweep its victims. Furthermore, it can produce organic bombs. To kill the Leviathan, the first thing the player should do is don't stop moving. Since the fight occurs in zero gravity, the player can use the situation to his own advantage by jumping easily to dodge the tentacles. Leviathan is usually related to sea monsters, but interestingly enough, the makers of Dead Space thought it was apt to use the same term for a space monster. Since the origins of this giant necromorph are unknown, it is quite possible that it came from the water, but that is nothing more than a speculation. Infector. The Infector's sole purpose is to spread the necromorph infection and infestation. The Infector is only formed of human legs and a torso, while its wings are formed from the host's skin, fused to the broken legs. The jaw of the host collapses and the rest of the head transforms into its beak. The beak is made out of mutated bone, spinal tissue, and muscles. It is the organ that facilitates the delivery of the virus into the hosts. The Infectors wrap the victim inside their wings and extend the beak to stab it into the skull, injecting a yellow fluid. It is important for the players to first take out the Infectors, or they run the risk of getting overrun by several others. Furthermore, the Infectors prefer people with head wounds, and the reason could be that in such cases, they wouldn't have to crack open the skulls of their victims. The players would usually find regular Infectors, but if your day is really bad, you might find yourself standing in front of an enhanced Infector, which is slightly darker in shade and definitely more ferocious. As far as its overall appearance is concerned, it looks like a manta ray, or a headless bat, with retractable beaks or proboscis. Tentacle. Tentacles are huge necromorphs that can either be an independent entity or be a part of larger necromorphs like the Hive Mind, Leviathan, or the Brethren Moon itself. When they are part of another being, they simply act as limbs or tentacles. Furthermore, they can be stationary necromorphs or mobile, depending on their origin and formation. They are formed from bones, internal organs, and muscle tissues, but their exact physiology is largely unknown. As should be expected, they are a sink for massive incoming damage, and destroying them is a task not everyone can finish. Between their stem and tips, we can see a large sac filled with glowing yellow liquid. This is one of the very few areas that serve as a weak point of the monster, making it vulnerable to damage. Complementing their massive size, the tentacles emit elephant-like cries that can be heard from great distances and could be quite intimidating. Apart from this, they also let out high-pitched screeching. However, where they produce these sounds is a matter of debate, because they don't seemingly have any mouth or organ that can produce sound. They attack by grabbing and dragging the victims into their lairs, often slamming them against the ground on their way. Brethren Moons. The Brethren Moons are also called Blood Moons or Brother Moons. These are extremely massive necromorphs that travel the depths of space and are believed to be the ultimate stage of a necromorph's life cycle. They are the prime antagonists of the Dead Space franchise. They are called so because their sizes are comparable to moons. Their prime agenda is to conquer and consume all life forms that they can find in the universe. Wherever they go, the place becomes bereft of any life form, including microbes. They reproduce by producing black markers that travel throughout space in search of life. The black marker came to Earth in an asteroid that crashed around 65 million years ago in the Yucatan Peninsula that separates the Gulf of Mexico from the Caribbean Sea. These magnificent beasts are the largest of all known necromorphs and have tentacles that can measure up to thousands of miles. In the midst of these colossal tentacles lies their giant maw that ingests huge quantities of matter. If we look at the complete overview of a Brethren Moon, it looks just like a gargantuan jellyfish. Including the Tau Volantis moon, there are 11 known Brethren Moons. Wheezers. Wheezers are encountered in the 6th chapter of Dead Space, and are probably the least harmless of all necromorphs. However, their gas can cause suffocation and ultimately death. There are only 8 of them, and they should all be killed quickly if one wants to gain access to the food storage, where Leviathan safeguards itself. They are the most humanoid of all necromorphs, apart from their obnoxiously large lungs. Also, these lungs are placed outside their bodies. Having their arms and legs fused, they are in an ever-kneeling stance, and are largely incapable of any movement. The Wheezers get their name from their strained breathing or wheezing. Because of their capacity to alter a place's atmosphere, they can be considered the terraforming species of the necromorphs.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.